Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to investor webinar of Baltic Horizon Fund. Today we are hosting this webinar to explain more in detail the delisting process and the timeline of the fund's SDRs from Nasdaq Stockholm stock exchange. So we have had several announcements already, but we hope that with this webinar, this process will be more clear for the investors involved. Once again, the reason for delisting in Nasdaq Stockholm is quite a pragmatic one, and the decision this process has been initiated together with Nordic Issuing AB, which is a company in Sweden which has organized the SDRs listing for us and in Nasdaq Stockholm. And we have set the date to be delisted on the 14th of October. So this comes from the regulation. So in that sense, quite a bit of time for the investors to make the decisions either to convert or then to sell. And once again, the reasons behind delisting is that not so many investors have stayed in Nasdaq Stockholm in the SDRs. Many investors have converted already their SDRs to Tallinn Stock Exchange to fund units, original fund units in euro. And as of today, approximately 5.5% of all outstanding units are in the SDR format. And when you look at the amount of units traded in 2024, then approximately 15 million units were traded during the year, and also approximately only 4.8% of all the trades were made in Nasdaq Stockholm. The Tallinn market has also provided better liquidity, and that's the reason why many investors have already converted. Then we will have some cost savings as well for the fund once we are delisted. So there's also some financial benefit behind this decision. So now, very simply and very clearly, and please share any of the questions that you have either now or then over email if anything remains unclear. But there is now a process that has started, and until October, every SDR holder then has basically two options. One is to sell the SDRs to the market in Nasdaq Stockholm, or issue a notice to convert the SDRs into fund units that are registered here in Tallinn in euro. And this notice has to be given to Nordic Issuing and as well most likely to your bank where the SDRs are currently held, if that's the case. So in case SDRs are held through a nominee account, either Swedbank or SEB or any of the other platforms or banks, then that bank should be contacted. And the ones who hold SDRs directly should contact Nordic Issuing also directly. It is also important to note that in case there is no decision made by an investor by the record date, then a mandatory conversion will be executed by the system. If the investor does not have a solution where to hold the original Baltic Horizon fund units in Nasdaq Tallinn, then the SDRs will be sold by Nordic Issuing to the market. So I also would welcome all investors to make those conversions, so that very little or if any SDRs will be remained in a way stranded and then mandatorily sold to the market by the Nordic Issuing then in the end of this year. So these are the key dates for the investors to consider. 8th of October is then the last trading day of the SDRs in Nasdaq Stockholm, and 14th of October, then it's the record date where Euroclear Sweden will deregister the SDRs, and whatever units are still left with Nordic Issuing, those will be sold to the market, and then the proceeds of that sale will be returned to the investor. Well, this is pretty much quite straightforward. I do have here a set of questions that we have prepared that potential investors may have. So perhaps let's go through them once again, and if in case any of the participants have any questions, please share them in a chat box. Before we go through this Q&A part of the presentation, then just for everybody's notice that this webinar will be put up on our website as well. It will be in Nasdaq Stock Exchange platform as well, and it could be revisited later on. So in case something is forgotten or remains unclear still. So let's go through it then question by question. So once again, the holder of the SDRs in Stockholm, they have two choices. One is to continue to be an investor and of Baltic Horizon Fund and convert the SDRs into fund units here in Tallinn with the help of Nordic Issuing, or then the bank where these units could be held later on. And the other option is basically over the period of almost 6 months to sell the SDRs to the market and to other investors and exit investment from the platform. Now, to be more specific, if SDRs are held through an investment bank, such as or any bank, such as Swedbank, SEB, then what should be done? And if the bank is involved, then definitely please contact your bank, and they will arrange the conversion of the units, and they will also check whether and how they can hold the securities in Nasdaq CSD, Central Securities Depository here in the Baltics, in Tallinn. and then the conversion could be executed. Then if some investors have a direct account with Euroclear Sweden, then and that's where the SDRs are, then please contact Nordic Issuing, the issuer of the SDRs, and there is an email, info@nordic-issuing.se. They are well informed and ready to assist in any way. We do acknowledge that there could be hundreds of investors that need to convert, but that's why we have quite ample time for these conversions to take place. And it is again quite important that an investor needs to check if the bank will be able to hold the fund units that after conversion, and but that would be needed to check with every bank separately, because they have their own contracts with Euroclear Sweden and but also with Nasdaq the Baltics, and so please check that as soon as possible. I've heard as well that many investors are invested through interactive brokers, and what we also understand is that the interactive brokers hold the SDRs through a local nominee bank in Sweden. So here again, the first point of contact, please let them know, and that should be first interactive brokers, somebody there, and then they should then contact the nominee bank, who is then able to make these conversions together in cooperation with Nordic Issuing and Euroclear Sweden. Once again, the key dates: 8th of October will be last trading day, and 14th of October this year, the record date. And please start with conversion as soon as possible. It is a technical process, and it may take a bit of time with your bank and Nordic Issuing completing the conversion. So we recommend that you would at least allow approximately 1 month for this conversion, so latest to convert in September, because otherwise the process may not be completed in time. Then more info about the conversion: it should usually take 5 to 7 business days to complete, but again, please reserve a bit more time. The bank employees may be on vacation at some point, or just they need to clarify a few things with Nasdaq the Baltics, how to hold the units. So it's important that in case there are any issues with the conversion, that those could be as well solved quickly. I guess many investors have their own reasons why they have invested into the SDRs that have been listed in Nasdaq Stockholm. Originally we had fund units also listed in Nasdaq Stockholm, but due to change in regulations and change in the ability of our partners in Sweden to assist us to remain listed in Sweden, then we we solved it by having SDRs listed in Nasdaq Stockholm. And the fund units, original fund units here in Tallinn, they are basically the same thing, but the technical structure of the listing is a bit different. So yeah, you would need also a nominee account for the newly converted fund units, but again, please talk to your bank, and we believe that the banks can help you there. We would love to help ourselves, but unfortunately, our hands don't reach as far as the banks are concerned, and that's how the process is structured, that we can only assist as much as we could, just bringing people together, giving the right contacts. But in any case, if you still have questions, to write us, to let us know one way or the other. If the contact with your bank or Nordic Issuing for some reason is not working. So one more question that the investor may have is that could one sell some SDRs and then convert the remaining? Then this is possible. So this just needs to be specified to your bank or Nordic Issuing, that what number of SDRs should be converted, and then what number should be sold. And in this process, there could be some fees associated, but those should be regular trading fees. But we're also trying to understand more about the cost of this process, and the conversion more specifically. So here, just a question, an investor may have, is that are the banks informed? So the banks have been informed about the termination by Nordic Issuing. They have sent out a regular notice, but they will not chase, I think, every investor. They will await for the decision of every investor, because that's where the decision can be made. And please contact the bank yourself. They will unfortunately not most likely contact you for this process. Maybe one more question is that is there anything that will change after the conversion? So you will still have the same rights and ownership in Baltic Horizon Fund, but it will then be in a different form. It will be in fund units form, registered in Nasdaq Baltics here in Estonia, and not anymore the SDR type of securities, which were listed alternatively in Nasdaq Stockholm. So again, you will continue to have the right to participate in general meetings and receive any cash distributions from the fund, so that will not change. So when the fund units, hopefully all will be listed in Nasdaq Tallinn, then there will be only one set of securities, which is the original fund unit, And the register of investors will also be in Nasdaq Tallinn. So the announcements will then be going out from Nasdaq Tallinn website, Nasdaq Baltics website, and also on the Baltic Horizon website. We will have all the announcements, all the messages also there. And otherwise, there shouldn't be any other major changes. And once more, just to remind that when is the last day that the SDRs can be sold. So that is basically the 8th of October, after which the fund units will be delisted. And the record date on the 14th of October. The fund, SDRs will also be deregistered in Euroclear Sweden. So that's the timeline, that's the process that we're looking at. I also see one question there from an investor. Email has been received among the others, and that email will be answered shortly after this webinar. And hopefully this webinar also gave a bit more clarity. So all the investor emails that we receive, we hope to respond to as soon as we can, as soon as we have the answers ourselves. And if for some reason no answer has been received, then please resend an email for a follow-up. Currently, I don't see any more other questions. So I would welcome you to then make a decision whether to sell the SDRs or to convert them to the Baltic Horizon fund units registered here in Tallinn. And then respectively contact your bank or Nordic Issuing, who are ready to guide you personally on that decision-making process. And hopefully all the conversions should go quickly. We will be monitoring our investor list that we can see both in Tallinn and in Sweden, in Nasdaq Stockholm, and see how this conversion is progressing. Ideally, we should see less and less number of SDRs registered and more fund units registered here in Tallinn. In case for some reason we see the process or the progress being quite slow, then most likely we will address the investor base once more with a webinar or with a Nasdaq announcement calling for action. So hopefully every investor has sufficient amount of time to complete this conversion process. So thank you for attending. Thank you for listening. Hopefully it was more clear and what to do. And yes, please start the process early. In case of any questions, we are there. Try to help you as much as we can. Thank you and bye-bye.